Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rod Hatley. I'm a tax, estate planning, and asset protection attorney with the Legacy Leaders Network. And this is a podcast that's being recorded for the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast that can be found on Apple. And I have the privilege today to talk to a colleague, Mike Hood, who is a financial advisor here in San Diego, where I am. And Mike, welcome to the program. Thanks for being available for this podcast interview. And I guess my initial question is, how did you become a financial advisor?
Well, I think like most origin stories, there's usually more to the actual story than what there really is. But the short answer, my wife and I had been married a few years. We were expecting our first child, and we had always planned on a stay-at-home mom situation. I know that makes me sound like a 90-year-old guy, but we that was our thing. We wanted that to be our family, plan. And the only thing I could think of was to get into a business where I could have unlimited income, and to try to replace my wife's income. So that's what kind of got me interested. I'd been in banking, and then I was recruited out of one of the branches to be in testing, and the rest is kind of history. There's a big on my website at hoodfinancial.com. There's the Hood Financial story that kind of goes into more in depth.
Okay.
So
very good.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share with me what you like most about the business? And then the flip side is, what do you like least about the business?
Yeah, I'll start with the last first, because it's ever present, as I'm sure it is in your industry and a lot of others. It's the regulation, it's the minutia, it's the detail, the behind the scenes stuff people don't see. We're very highly regulated, which is great because we want to be careful. We want to be good fiduciaries to our clients. So that part is cumbersome to deal with, and it's expensive.
Okay.
But it's helping the client. And I know everyone says that, and I know it sounds very cliche, but I really have a passion for helping people and enjoy seeing the results that I can bring to the table. Even if it's some slight improvement or putting them on a different path, I really get great satisfaction knowing that I had a hand in that.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Because the focus of Legacy Leaders is really the idea of legacy and estate planning that includes maybe leaving a legacy, which is more than just the financial part of it, but also the other stuff, like traditions and
values and things. Yeah,
exactly. Let's see. Can you share without mentioning names, of course, can you share a situation possibly that you've had in your experience where you saw a family go through difficult times because of a failure to plan, or maybe they had got a plan, but they hadn't kept it updated or maintained, et cetera? Anything like that?
Unfortunately, there's too many of those kinds of stories, and it's frustrating because they're really preventable.
Yeah.
Some are in my extended family.
Yeah.
You're not a prophet in your own hometown, that kind of thing.
Of course. Yeah.
And
so
my father-in-law, bless his heart, is the poster child of not planning. I was barely good enough to marry his daughter 40 years ago, let alone handle what little money we found out he had on the tail end of his he's in a memory care facility. He's doing well, but he did not plan at all. So there's just, and that's the thing that I think that's so hard, is that there are a lot of preventable ways of fixing things. But one family in particular, just kind of fast forward, the end result was, we were able to preserve tax-free dollars instead of what would have been taxable dollars at death. In fact, had I not worked with this client at all, I know for a fact he would have run out of money. There would have been no inheritance. Because of the planning we did, kind of from the financial side, because the legal side is really important and people need to get all those things dialed in. But sometimes I think the lack of the financial side really creates bigger problems. You know, because he could have had the best trust in the world, but if he ran out of money because he was paying this nursing home forever,
Yeah.
you know. So bottom line, we kept him going, and he had all the money he needed. We left tax-free value behind, and he's one of those guys. He didn't recognize his grandkids, but if you asked him who is Mike Hood, he would say he's the guy who got me out of the market in 2008.
Good. Fabulous.
Summer of 2008, we got him out, we arranged all this stuff, and he was golden for many, many years. And what's interesting is, so that legacy passed to his two kids, a son and daughter. Tragically, that daughter has passed, and her husband has received, you know, so I'm looking and I'm working with him, realizing he would not have any of this. And so I just take great satisfaction from that, as do a lot of professionals, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me, Mike, about your the ideal client or referral to work with for you. And and let me ask you, before you even answer that, you bill yourself as the retirement Sherpa. So I'm going to assume.
What is that?
Well, can you share more about how you came to call yourself the retirement Sherpa? And I assume that may probably tie into what your ideal client is. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you notice on our logo, it's Mount Hood. We actually had a contest years ago with clients to, do you have any ideas for a logo that we should use? And one of them suggested it probably 20 some years ago. Wow. So we've been using it ever since, but I realize it's a great analogy and metaphor for our financial life. So climbing the mountain is a pre-retirement where you're building assets and things. You get to the top, that is retirement. Coming back down is post-retirement. And here we got Mount Everest, we got all these people, and they're going up and down. They're crossing over each other. And this was a famous picture a few years ago where tragically a lot of people passed away. Yeah. So this idea of a retirement Sherpa kind of was born out of this thought that a lot of people are good to try to get to the top, but they don't know what it looks like coming down. And so if you're going to climb a mountain, you would need a map, the right gear, and a guide. And so I built my whole process, and you can see it on my website at hoodfinancial.com. You can see that the map is a financial plan, the gear is your investments and things you need the tools. And then the guide is me to help you, because I've been up and down this mountain hundreds of times, and most people retire only once, hopefully, right?
Well, that would be the goal, sure.
Yeah. So I wake up every morning with this image in my mind of helping people navigate and try to get up and down. And the big takeaway that I think most people are surprised about, and this goes back to the ideal client, that the tools and strategies and investments and things that you use, the gear that you use to get you to the top, isn't the same gear you should be using coming down.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons, it might be too difficult to get into in the short amount of time we have. So my ideal client is someone that's, probably 5 to 10 years away from retirement, or 5 to 10 years coming down the mountain and starting to recognize they may have some difficulties. They need to be educated, because it's a whole different world than it was, back when the greatest generation was retiring, with pensions and out of debt and those kinds of things. Yeah.
I mean, the world really has changed. So I suspect.
Really there wasn't even such a thing as a retirement degree. That RICP is a retirement income certified professional. There was no such thing as retirement planning when I started, because it was done for you automatically. And now it's a different world.
No doubt. No doubt. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Let's talk, if we can, about your process for helping your clients with their investments and their retirement planning. Can you share a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the process of the map, gear, and guide. So we have a 3-step process where we, take a look at everything they have, which kind of helps us kind of formulate the map. We do risk analysis, we do budgeting, we do investment planning, and the taxes and income planning is the big one. There are a number of choices to be made nowadays, and timing issues. Because the greatest generation, when they retired, they took Social Security on the same day they quit, on the same day they took their pension, on the same day they burned their mortgage, and got their gold watch. Yeah, right? That was kind of what everyone did back then, and they all did it the same way. And now those 90-something-year-old people are bemoaning the fact that they took Social Security at 62, because it's so much less than it would have been had they waited. Right. So there's a lot of timing, and it is very, very, very complex. There's a lot of moving parts if you do it the right way. Right. And that's what we strive to do. So we have a methodical process. We do take our time. we vet strategies, we test drive routes up and down the mountain and different gear and things so people can be assured that they're on the right track.
Okay, terrific. Question I've got here is if you could share about a time when completing business with someone was one of your greatest experiences, but and also one of your worst experiences. So can you share?
Well, I think that the story that I mentioned earlier about that client, I mean, that still sticks out to me as probably being one of the best I've had, you know, where I really was able to see that impact had I not been involved. And I don't want it to sound like an ego thing. Again, I think any professional that does is worth his or her salt. You know, we have great impact on people. But in particular in the financial world, I mean, money cuts across all areas of life, and to know you can have that impact is powerful. Probably the worst experience I had was a client that I'm still working with, because the husband was kind of very close to the vest. He, you know, felt like things are taken care of. And I simply thought, hey, second opinion, another pair of eyes, who knows what we'll find. And it wasn't until after he passed away that we started to dig through and realize that it was a facade, and it's been the biggest, most expensive, time-consuming thing that I've seen, that I've gone through and this poor widow has gone through. But there again, it was the gratification of being able to help her during that time. And now I feel like, you know, if I run across someone else like that, I say, hey, go call so-and-so. Ask her if you think if you that you ought to just let me take a second look at what's going on. And I'm sure you get that with your legal practice too, and reviewing documents, you know.
Sure.
Lots of
I look at trusts that were done years ago. And luckily, you know, we have the clients in my office and we're talking about updating the planning.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest problems that they have is that, you know, assets are not owned by the living trust. And more typically, it's the home. Maybe they took the home out of trust to refinance it, but when they closed escrow, forgot to put it back in trust, or they left instructions to put it back in trust, and that didn't happen. And you know, that could be a problem when someone passes on. And or the plan, I mean, when they did the plan originally, you know, maybe there was one child and now there are 3 kids. You know, just things change. And of course, the law changes, and my experience as an attorney changes. Ideally, I actually think I get smarter over time. And
yeah, I hope I have too. It's funny, the trust thing. I remember I'd meet with clients and I would say, oh, is this in your trust? And they go, oh yeah, and they'd pull out the Schedule A, and it would list all the assets, and they'd say, see, it's in my trust. No, it's not in your trust, because the title is not. And yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions on those areas.
Of course. Okay. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Mike. Let me just ask you this question. What is one thing that people need to know about you? If I can be so bold.
Yeah. You know, I won't say that I am the smartest or the best at XYZ, but I truly care. That is one thing that is just innate as part of me. I really do enjoy helping people. Early on, it was survival. You know, my wife had just quit work and we've got this brand new baby. Literally a month before I jumped in this business, she quit the job and I jumped in full-time financial services, self-employment, and all that uncertainty brings. And at that point, it was survival. But the more I've gone along, I realized that the satisfaction of helping people, I really, really do care. Oftentimes, I find myself caring more than the client. I'm sure you've been in that position too.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of say, well, good luck. You know, I know what's going to happen, and I don't want to be the "I told you so" guy, but there's a certain way of doing X, Y, Z, and so I think that's just that I really, really do care. I care about details.
Yeah,
details matter an enormous amount.
Oh my God, it's you can't overstate that. I mean, it just, and that's why, as an attorney, I really say, you know, that they pay me to look at the details, because that's where, you know, we can make a big difference. To just, you know, make recommendations and to actually read the documents. What do they say?
Right.
And it's all in the documents, or it's not. And if it's not in the documents, we can't do certain things.
Yeah.
But if it's provided for, well, then now you have options and you can just go this way or that way. You have choice and you remain in control.
Yeah, I've learned to not take anything for granted. If someone tells me that something's a certain way, I say, let's go to the, like you say, the documents, or let's go to the statement or look at the thing. And what one guy could swore up and down that his wife was the beneficiary of his IRA. And I said, well, I happened to be at his house. I said, well, pull up your Vanguard. Let's take a look. Nope. His wife was not the beneficiary of his IRA.
Oh, wow.
It was the most convoluted beneficiary I'd ever seen, actually, in 30 plus years of practice. It was very weird, and it would have caused the immediate taxation or over a 5-year period of
Lord.
this $1.5 million IRA.
My
Just
God.
that one little detail, just by pressing the issue, saved them a ton of money.
Or what I will sometimes see is somebody who, has been married a time or two, and they haven't updated the beneficiary designation to the new or the current spouse.
Right.
And you can just imagine having the conversation with that new spouse to find out, well, unfortunately, your deceased spouse left the insurance or the retirement plan monies or whatever to the former spouse, and you're not getting that. So that's, that can be a real shock.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that those beneficiary designations take precedence over what the living trust might say.
Absolutely, it's all by contract.
Very powerful, yeah, or joint tenancy and the like, right? Same thing.
Yeah. Let's see, Mike. Throw this out there. The phrase trusted advisor is used pretty often. I think it's hard not. It'd be rare you find somebody who's not a trusted advisor, but and obviously we all aspire to be that trusted advisor. What does that term mean to you in terms of being a trusted financial advisor?
Well, it's yeah, I mean, you're right. Everyone wants to be trusted. Everyone's going to say, oh, you can trust me. And we talk about building trust and how do we do that with people? And there's various ways. But I think for me, I take it very, very seriously, the responsibility I have, the care and feeding of my clients and being in touch with them. And so I think it's something that, again, it's cliche, but you earn it. Yeah. Sometimes it's implied, sometimes it's there right away, but I think it's everything. I think trust is everything. And I will say that sadly, it really is hard to come by. And in this day and age. And I think, though, at the same time, it's very easy to determine kind of where people stand. I mean, if I was out hurting people for 30 plus years, it would be out there somewhere.
The word gets around.
It tends to follow you. And so I take that reputation very seriously. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work I've done. I think I've got very loyal clients and
lucky,
loyal to them. And it's just, it's a great responsibility that I just don't take lightly.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Let's see. Well, I guess this is kind of a follow-on question. I mean, what does it mean to be a financial advisor? I mean, can you offer any opinion about that or your own perspective?
You could probably get 12 of us in a room and each one would answer it differently because what their specialty is, what they like to do, their emphasis of focus. And I really feel for the average consumer and the internet cesspool of information that's out there, because I mean, really, we're not lacking for information in this world. We're lacking for wisdom and experience and grounded, tried and true things. That's at least what I try to bring to the table. So there's no shortage of information. I mean, you can go online and, figure out how to do brain surgery if you'd like to. And maybe that'll come in handy someday if you have someone that is in that situation. But I just think it's challenging for the average person to know which one to choose on specialty. So you would vet them based on how are they licensed? How do they get paid? Right. Are they fiduciary or are they a fiduciary and they adhere to a suitability standard as well? There is a myriad of, and so it's no wonder people just throw up their hands and say, well, this guy sounded good on the radio. It'll go with him. Or the entertainers. Ooh, don't get me started on the entertainer financial people. They aren't licensed. They can say whatever they want.
Of course.
And there's no backing. There's no entities that are looking over their shoulder and telling them they should say this or should say that. So I think that's where it gets dangerous and really challenging for people to find the right. But I think you have to have a fit. You got to like the person.
Sure.
Got to be able to get along, because you're going to be joined at the hip, or at least in my case, I'll be walking you down this mountain for probably a very long time. You know, everyone's going to live a lot longer than they expected, and
sure.
all the conversation, you know.
You've more or less addressed it. You know, the question I had was, why should folks choose a financial advisor? And I think you more or less touched on it. You know, there's a lot of information out there, but as you say, and I think you're absolutely spot on, there's not a lot of wisdom. And so having, you know, and it's that understanding, well, what should we do? Yeah, there are lots of things you could do, but what should you do based on your circumstances and what you want to accomplish, your goals, objectives, etc. And then working with someone like you can help them understand, okay, well, here's what you've shared with me that you said was important to you. Now let's see how we might go from where you are now to where you would like to be within whatever the time frame is, and then chart a path forward together, and bring your experience to bear and your wisdom, your hard-won wisdom, on what's the safest route to get down that, to either get up the mountain or get down the mountain if they're now in the consumption phase of their retirement years.
Yeah, and it's really, I just think the do-it-yourself thing, I honestly don't think it's possible. I really don't. I mean, I'm immersed in this industry for 30 plus years, day in and day out. Yeah. And if I have trouble keeping up,
of course, we all do.
It's incredible, right? So,
it changes.
And I think of every successful person, they have other people that they know and trust to do things for them. Like,
of course,
like just the other day, you know, handle broke on the faucet. I probably could, but I'm not gonna. You know, so I'm gonna pay a guy. He'll come fix it. I got a gardener dude. I got I got all the people to take care of things, and all the successful people. You know, Tiger Woods, best golfer in the world, pays a coach. He has a coach. He's got therapists. He's got physical. All of these people, and it's really no different in this in every other arena. You know, we do what we do for a living, right? But we are not supposed to be expert at other kinds of things, and so it really does. I think if you find the right fit, that the value will always exceed the perceived cost. And I think that's a big one. I know that it's an issue in your world as well, Rod, that people just, you know, oh, I don't want to pay the money. It's like, oh my goodness, pay the money, pay the professional, get the work done. And maybe 6 months, a year down the road, you will then realize how much value there was. And so the fee is really shouldn't enter into the picture.
I'd agree with that, because I just saw a commercial today. You know, there's lots of do-it-yourself out there for the estate planning, and I, you know, I'll agree. You know, we are a devout nation of do-it-yourselfers. We love to do it ourselves until we screw it. We have to bring in the professional
pride to it. Yeah.
And I just tell people, you know, it's fine, but you know, you may not, you know, fully understand. I mean, you know, like you, I have to work overtime to stay up on my little narrow area of the law. And understand what techniques are available. And I like to think that I get smarter every year. Not that anything I did previously was bad, but I mean, we learn new techniques, new strategies. We have tax court cases that say you can do this or you can't do that, etc. We get smarter as time goes on. And I can bring that experience to bear, and I can, you know, make sure that the clients, that they're, you know, what they told me in the client meeting, you know, their hopes, fears, dreams, and aspirations, whatever is important to them, that we can achieve those using the planning that we've designed together, because it's a very collaborative process. I meet them, I sit down with them, I say, well, these are your options. You tell me what works for you. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what works for you based on what I've shared with you, what you can do. You tell me what you want to do, and you make an informed choice. Mike, in the moments that we have left on this, who are your best referral sources?
You know, obviously the choir, my clients, you know, those that know me, love what we've done, take great comfort in the types of things that we've done together, and then other professionals who have seen the results maybe with their own clients as well. I've taken a approach not to do a lot of things to get clients like other people have. I prefer the organic approach, clients, friends, family, professionals, that type of thing.
Right.
It really works well, and it's gratifying because, you know, they see the kind of work that you've done, and who wouldn't want to help their friend get more secure retirement income if that was their objective, for one example, you know.
I agree with that. I mean, some of the best referrals I've gotten are from clients that I've had the privilege to work with, and they've recommended other family members, friends, associates to come see me.
Yeah.
And you can't pay for that. Have that kind of word of mouth. I mean,
No, and it's important.
gratifying and very humbling too that they think so highly of you that they would say,
Yeah.
go see Rod or go see Mike. I think that's, you know, I don't know that there's a better vote of confidence that you could receive.
I had one referral that they would never have done any planning had it not been their friends recommending that they meet with me.
Wow.
They had done nothing. They were in their late 70s, no
Lord.
wills, nothing at all. Like they had to, and they just were too afraid. You know, they just were kind of reticent, and so it was that kinship and trust that was immediately there, and we did some great work for them.
It's lucky when that happens. I mean, it really makes a difference, and you know, it saves them a lot of headache, especially the surviving spouse. You know that, you know, there are no missed opportunities. In other words, you had a chance to get to them ahead of time, and get some good planning, both financial and also the estate planning too, so that, you know, life goes on, and when someone passes, you know, the survivor's life doesn't have to be, you know, disrupted and thrown into chaos, which is really, I mean, you can't put a price on that. Just that peace of mind. Mike, how can you be found?
So hoodfinancial.com, that's my website.
Okay.
HOOD, Hood Financial, is right up there.com. There you can read about my map, gear, guide, the process. We can connect with a 15-minute get acquainted phone call. I offer that to anyone just to kind of sit down and see, what are you looking for? What's your situation? Is there a fit? That'll be followed by a free consultation where we do a little bit of a deep dive. Okay. And I kind of walk them through my entire process and what it would look like for them. Okay. And what's really challenging, we've got 10,000 baby boomers a day, roughly, going up and down, you know, trying to get up the mountain and starting to come back down again.
Right.
And they have no idea what to expect. Yeah. The math and science that's involved in retirement planning today is something that no generation has had to see before. And it's an experiment. I mean, it is a real experiment.
Right.
We see people that have accumulated all their money in a 401k, which is the biggest tax time bomb. We've talked about that. And taxes are only going to get higher, you know, so it's like over the years, they've maybe done things that they could have changed differently. And so the message really is, it takes a lot of different approaches to try to get them safely and securely on the path they want to be. And I'm more than happy to chat with anyone, see if I can be a second opinion, or maybe it's just a one-off question they may have on something. I'm always happy to chat.
Okay. Mike, is there, in the remaining moments that we have, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on, or anything else you wanted to share with our listeners that would be valuable for them?
No, I think we've covered kind of most of it. Again, it's like everything else. There's what we call the 4 L's of retirement. There's lifestyle. People are usually really concerned about, we want to keep the same lifestyle we had, and how do we do that? Right. And there's legacy, you know, where we get into the planning, estates, and how do we get stuff passed on the right way, values, assets, et cetera. Sure. And there's going to be issues of liquidity. You always want to have some kind of liquidity in the mix. And then longevity is kind of that big unknown, right? Yeah. And that's the biggest challenge that people are facing today, because if people, I have some client, my oldest client was 103. Wow. And my grandmother was almost 107 when she passed away.
My goodness.
Longevity is kind of the mother of all retirement risks, because the longer we live, the more likely we are to see taxes go up, to see inflation, to see all these things that might, markets crash or what have you. So we've got to plan for those. And then the 5th L, the one everyone forgets about, is long-term care. That is by far the biggest financial risk that everyone faces. 70% of people over age 65 are going to need care. And that's separate from the $300,000 that most retirees will spend on healthcare throughout their retirement. Right. So you take your $1.5 million 401k that you might be very proud about and thinking you're doing okay, and you start chopping. Yeah. It's very challenging. So I would say this is not for the faint of heart, and it's not for the do-it-yourselfers. And trust a professional like myself or someone else to walk you through it. And really, we can create the type of retirement that you worked a lifetime to achieve. Excellent. Mike, it's been a pleasure to have you on the call.
Thank you, Rod. Thanks for being available today. And if anybody needs to reach out to you, it's hoodfinancial.com.
Yep, that's the website. Look forward to hearing from you.
Okay. Mike, again, a pleasure. Thank you for being on the call today.
Thank you.
If you have any, for our listeners, if you would like to follow up with Mike, possibly if you're in the San Diego area, please feel free to reach out to him. Mike, do you have clients across the country, or is it limited to San Diego?
Yep, all across the country.
Okay, great. All right. So if you're listening and you're not in California,
no big.
Mike is certainly available to take a call and talk to you, and maybe help, if not help you himself, help you find someone in your local area who is an RICP. And I was about to say and I will say that this is how complex it's gotten. They now have to create a special designation.
Yeah.
For a retirement income, which didn't exist before, but because of the complexity, I mean, that's where we've had to go. So you need to be working with a real expert in this area.
Yeah, my school teachers would be proud. I've got more letters after my name than in my name, and I barely made it through high school. So I'm just, full disclosure,
excellent,
late bloomer in the education field. So anyway, great to be with you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. A pleasure.
All right.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.